No. I'm gonna call you on that one. I don't
Okay.
see it for Sloan. No. Says this guy. What is up, people? Welcome to today's episode of the Best of Three podcast. I'm Alvin, joined again by my main man, Torrey Hawkins.
What up? What up?
TH, how we doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing good. A little feisty tonight. You
Oh,
know,
it's gonna, yeah,
you got me going in the pregame.
yeah.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm glad you're not right here. We would be literally. I'm glad we don't have gloves on. You know what I mean? Because it's a verbal jab, but I am 100% ready. I want you to pick up right where you left off before you press the record button, and let's get right to it.
It's a feisty one. It's a feisty one. It's a night session. It feels like a Thursday night, first week of the U.S. Open on Ash right
Yep.
now. Like it's
Yep.
it's dark out, lights are bright. We can roll. We're not gonna touch the 2 hour mark today, but we're gonna let this thing fly. Um, First things first. I'm sure you're not watching it, and I'm not watching it either. But what do you know, or what are your thoughts on the next gen ATP Next Gen competition that they host? It's being played right now. Give you guys a little peek behind the curtain
Yeah.
of when we're actually recording this. But it's being hosted right now in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
They invite the top 8 male players in the world
Yeah.
that are under the age of 21.
Yep.
And this event started in like 2017, I want to say, maybe 2016. And the gist of it is it's more or less the young guns version of the ATP finals, right? Same format, except for they play
Right.
fast 4 sets as opposed to best out of 3 regular sets. Two
Right.
groups, 4 players in each group, round robin,
Yep.
top players move forward, and then you get a champion at the end. I am personally, whatever they're doing is working because of what I've seen from those who win the event,
Mhm.
what they end up doing moving forward. I think it is as good of an indicator of future success as anything. What
You
say
you
you?
have a better perspective on this. I go back to when I had players on the tour in the mid 2000s all the way up to the early 2010s. This was always a concept. I talked to some of the higher execs in the ATP and WTA. There was always this ranking of the young guns. There was
Right.
always this. They pulled them off. And all they've really done now is given them a tournament to themselves to try to see and market. Quite frankly, I think it's a great move by the ATP and the WTA. Um, I I will hold my comments on current because I haven't checked the results, haven't checked the format itself. I'm currently fighting with the missus about subscriptions and whatnot, on various tennis subscriptions. But I will say this: I think it's a great move. I think it's a great move for and a great spotlight. A great, I'm going to say the term. It casts a good spotlight on the up and coming players. Something that I think as a coach of some up and coming players years ago, would have wished they would have had this years ago. I think it would have been a great thing. That said, I think it's a great thing. Do I think some of the next gen have a chance to really play at the next level? Well, that's the big we'll see. My personal opinion is, in times gone by, they didn't need it. And I submit to you, players like Monica Seles, that won the Orange Bowl at 11, Jennifer Capriati, who won the Orange Bowl at 12, played Wimbledon at 14. So these players were already playing top-level ball. They're not that old, Alvin. They're not that far gone. Serena Williams, we hate to keep adding heap more praise, much deserved praise, I might add, on the GOAT herself. Serena was a ripe old 17, braids, beads in the hair.
Yep.
When
Yep.
she took it to the house, and I want to say 98. Now I say that to say, do we need that level of tournament? I think it's great for the fans, great for the upcoming players, 100%. What will their transition be? What will their ascension to the top be? I don't know.
Yeah. I
I
I,
will
I think
say this: I'm not so sure. On the men's side, completely granted, these players need to play. They need to play on bigger stages and so on. The women's side,
So
I'm not so
that's a
sure.
really good point. That's a good point because they don't have a next gen women's equivalent. This is ATP only. So
Right.
it doesn't for I'm sure for a lot of reasons that are
Yep.
far outside the purview of this particular podcast. Or if you're
Right.
on YouTube, what's up? But I think I say it's a good indicator because I look at the players who have done well in the event. Let's say had made the finals of this event since 2017. Right? You've got Andrei Rublev,
Yep.
Stefanos Tsitsipas,
Yep.
Demonor. Yannick Sinner won it in 2019. Carlos won it in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Nakashima beat Yuri Lehechka a couple years back in the final. So, like, I think it's doing a good job of highlighting the players that are now. Now, remember, you have to be under the age of 20 or 20 and under by the end
Yep.
of the year,
Yep.
and they take the top 8 ranked players of that age group within the obviously within the ATP ranking. So you're getting the best of that crop.
Right.
And I think on its own, like, okay, if you're under the age of 20 and let's say you're top 50 in the world, that's probably a pretty good sign that you're going to be all right out here in these streets, right?
100%. 100%.
So maybe it's more so like your point of highlighting these young players as opposed to being a an indicator that this player is going to be good. I guess by qualifying for the event, they are already good.
So years ago, I had Rodney Harmon, a good friend of mine who's the head coach now at Georgia Tech. Spent 17 years, I believe, at head of player development. One of my many rants and raves with some of the USTA types in those days. I proposed, as he was going to tell me, that thought has come up before, the 20 and under championship, right?
Yep.
Include every college player, top pro, you name it. I even said include any college player. You know what I mean? If they're of that age, let them play and let that be the wild card into the Open. That's what my thought was. I said, let's be honest, not many kids winning K2 are going to win a round at the Open. A 20-year-old who's played top-level college, played a few futures, played some challenges, has a better shot. Give the 18U kid not 1, but 4 chances in the qualies at a bigger event. He needs matches. He doesn't need a spotlight and a wild card in the Open to make a little change. If he's really going to be going to college anyway, can't take the bulk of the money anyway. And if he's going to go pro, he needs the 4 tournaments.
Right. Yeah.
So the point, to say the 20 under format has been a thing he told me the tour has been talking for years. Again, to your point, it's coming to fruition now. Don't get me started on the LIV and the Saudis and on the tour. That's a whole nother talk show. But I think it's a great deal. You mentioned some great names there. Brandon should be very honored to become some tall cotton, brother. Some tall cotton, Brandon.
Hey, Brandon's top 40 right now. I know he had an up and down 2024, but
he better screenshot that ranking right now. I like him. I've seen him play a few times. He played at the Atlanta Open not long back. I think he's a great kid and a great product of California and I think Southern Cal. Heck of a player.
Backhand is clean as Christmas too.
100%. Is he a future top 20? Is he a future Alcaraz and center? I don't think so. Now, I will say this. As I always say, I hate dishing and being negative on the top players. These guys are great. Let me give you just a brief, and I got to say this from my own perspective.
Get it out. Get it off your chest.
I got to get off my chest. I'm talking to Dave Fish, the head coach of Harvard years ago.
Yep. Illustrious head coach.
Illustrious. The famous Dave Fish, right? Dave Fish, many don't know, was idea behind UTR, which we all now think of now as a tennis standard. Dave Fish had a crazy idea. He thought, and I talked to Dave about this at length. He said, not every year's number 1 is the number 1.
Oh, that makes total sense. No,
when he said that to me, I was like, that makes sense, Dave. He says, it doesn't mean they're not great players. It's not their fault that they came in that year. They're just not top. He says, I would even submit to you the number 3 of certain years might be a better player than the number 1 of the next. I challenged some of our graduates, some of our people in the, and Dave was smart as I don't know what, coach at Harvard, I'm pretty sure he went to Harvard as well, said, those that are smarter than me, which anytime somebody defers like that, they're pretty sharp. He says, I put it to them the challenge to create a system that could judge their quality of play, their rating, not their ranking. Even the rankings themselves could be a little bit up and down. This is my point with the 20 under championships. Look at the UTRs. Look at what the stats say to what those things are. And I will say that to you, Alvin, to say, this is, in my opinion, this is one of the problems with the Brandon Nakashimas, the Mickelsons, the Marcus Girouds. They are in a great vacuum of being scooped up into playing the tournaments, getting in there. Hey, God bless them, doing a great job. And now the tough part is, can they move the needle from top 100 to top 50s amoebas, right? Did you get 1 or 2 rounds more? Did you have that challenger points coming off? Did you have an ATP that the number one seed took the prize money and took the appearance money and bounced, and so on and so on, as unfortunate so many do. Now you've got to actually defend those points a year later. From as high level as the Tommy Paul and Ben Shelton from 2023, when they had a great year, to the Brandons and Alice's and Marcus's this year that now have to defend that 50. That in itself is a feat. So I say that to say the jury's out. The 20 under championship, I would love to see them have their own circuit and then give those players some points into the tour, especially from the countries that produce a lot of players, U.S., France, Spain, obviously all of Central America could be. Italy, and Italy to me could be part of Southern Europe. And you can call your own Ryder Cup if you want to. I'm just saying that goes back to my tennis commissioner idea, but that would give the up-and-comers a chance to play each other without running into the big dogs. And that is a whole new level of challenger to me. Now you got the 20 under international championships and Alvin, but there ain't a better situation there. I would show up there and be next to you sitting courtside, taking videos, and we've had this podcast courtside. That to me is something I look forward to. Will that transition them automatically? But it gives them great matches at a big stage, which is what most, in my opinion, the men need desperately. They need matches at that level. And you heard it right here. Even the women. I think the women need it as much. I think the COVID year and Serena, I know it's two big factors to understand. The COVID year put a handful of players at the top that maybe not had been there. They were not ready yet. And Serena, of course, with her 3 or 4 year retirement, as it transitions out. And then we had a few that beat Serena that kind of semi-retired, right? With Naomi of the top of that heat. They, Emma Navarro types, need that level of, hey, I am the next gen champ. And I now earn this number of wild cards, this number of such and such. And that, to me, I don't get off topic, but if that champ then qualifies for, right, 8 wild cards, boom. Now that's big. 4 wild cards for the finalists, 3 and 3 for the semis, and so on and so on, 2 for the quarters. Now you got something. And now you're playing to get into that top deck. And I think, hey, it may suck for that 37-year-old or 39 or 39-year-old or that player that's been in the top 100 for 8 years but haven't done anything, maybe got third round 8 years in a row. Hey, I'm sorry. At some point, it's time for you to either put up, shut up. It's time for this next year to come in. But I think that should be the format. They should play for wild cards. They should play for tournament entries, and they should play for some notoriety, some sponsorships, and what have you. And now we really get to see that new era kind of come in. Let's face it, back to our whole year. You said 3-year peak. I call it a 5-year window. Now we get to see who can really be the real deal. I love that format. I know it's not answering your question specifically, but that's exactly where I think that tournament is headed. And it should have 4 to 8 events of their own interspersed throughout the year to give them their own quote-unquote tour. Futures tour. Does the golf call it a Futures tour? Right?
I don't know.
I know the tours have it.
Yeah.
They used to call it the Futures Tour, and I know baseball called it AAA, the farm system, and you got D League and basketball. You know what I mean? So there's all kind of things. I'm just saying, this sport has their own version of this. I think that could be tennis.
Yeah, I mean, my only pushback is, and we're gonna move off the topic, but my only pushback is that these players are already out competing on the actual tour and doing well enough. Like, so the top 4 of them will be ranked inside of I think the 3 or 4 of them are ranked inside of the top 50.
So kick out the top 25, right? Kick out the top 25. Let me tell you what brought me to this situation. I was doing research for this podcast tonight. I noticed a bunch of disparities between starting the career and when they first played their first pro event. Emma Navarro, for an example, right? She's at UVA. Emma's been playing top tournaments since 2019. He went pro in 2022. She's been playing for a minute. So don't think this is her first rodeo.
Right.
Now, to my point, other players like a Coco, like Sloan, like Madison, went pro, right? We're almost putting it out. It was weird putting out these names and these numbers. 2014, 2009, 2008. I'm like, wow, they've been on tour a long time. Madison was 14 years old. It was 14 years old. We almost kind of put her out to pasture. She's barely 30-some-odd years old right now. And had probably one of her best years in the last few years last year. I say it to say, it's not Emma's fault that she did the system right, went to college and everything. And it's not Madison's fault that she went pro at a tender age of 14 when you're legally able to do so. I say it to say, you see my point about the transition. She's going to do 3 years on tour because there wasn't a tour like this back in the day. You get my point.
Yeah, it's a nice mix. And we did. I didn't mean to get us that far off course from today's, I guess, actual topic. But these things are important, right? We're talking about what tennis could be compared to what it is, and format is important. How players actually get here is important. Understanding where they came from before the average fan sees them in the second round of the U.S.
100%.
Open.
It ain't their first rodeo. That's all.
Right.
And that's the one point. Before you move on, that's the one. And to your point, the WTA needs it. The ATP definitely needs it. And I think it should almost have its own tour / again, interspersed. We're not taking them completely out of the mix. They are free to play anything. And at some point, let's face it, the girl top 25, top 50 even had and should play without the aid of extra help. We're only talking about the younger ones, kids in college, juniors, right? That want to test the waters. This is their, in a sense, their time to shine. Call it their whatever. Anyway, to your point.
it's really a conversation about like what should the Challenger Tour be. Like that's what should the Challenger circuit actually be? And you mentioned Emma, and I think she's a big part of our conversation today. As we kind of move into the taking a look at how our American women have done this year, and what we'd like to see or what we expect to see from them in 2025. But like you said, Emma cut her teeth in college, right? Progressively got better. And I think we talked about her, maybe a couple episodes back as well with your experience with her in juniors. But she also has, she's had this, rise. It's been up and to the right for the last, I'd say, 18 months, just progressively doing better and better, not just overall, but like especially at the slams, right? But interspersed, she's also still messing around and playing at 125 here and there, just to make sure she's still got the
matches, confidence, and quite frankly, momentum. I'll go back to one Andre Agassi, who, when he was coming back off some injuries, dropped back down and played a couple of challengers. Mind you, he didn't win every challenger he played. Dropped back down and then got back using the protective ranking that got back inside the top. And hey, you heard it right here. Had a great push off the side of the pool, doing a flip turn, and had a resurgence of his career. And really, in my opinion, people understand how tough the challengers were. But you had to put in work. Getting challenges. There's a couple players that walk around that had a couple of notches on the belt on Agassi in the challengers, right? Even though he was, of course, an 8-time Grand Slam champion and did his thing, and we all know, we all had his shorts, we all had the blue and black checkerboard, and the denim shorts and the highlighter, thing underneath. Trust, there's no question, Agassi was as good as he was. But if a player like Agassi at his caliber will drop back down to get some matches and momentum, what do the rest of us need?
Right.
I would submit that we need an entire tour dedicated to some of these tournaments. To your point, the challenges are there. College players take advantage of it. Heck, some college schools take advantage of it and host
them,
right?
It's a huge recruiting tool
huge tool. So don't get me started on that, and don't take that away. I'm just saying, wrap it around, I bow in it, and let's be able to make that a tour in and of itself. Future tour, nationwide tour, whatever you want to call it, and let that be its own deal where they're still able. We're not limiting what they can play. We're saying this is only open to you, young players, and give yourself a chance to go out there and play and see what it's like at the big time. That's my point. Emma
Okay.
Navarro. What do you got?
Emma
I
Navarro.
know you.
Well,
Yep.
let's take a step back and kind of look
Yep.
at this from a 30,000. I always can't remember if it's 30,000 or 3,000. It's got to be 30,000 foot view,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So right now on the
50,000
women's
if
side,
you're on the right plane.
right? Exactly.
My dad worked for Boeing for 30 years, so I get
Okay.
40,000 and 50,000. I understand aeronautical stuff a little better than most, but go ahead.
Okay, there you go. That makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah.
So right now on the women's side, we've got 3 women who finished the year in the top 10, right?
Yep.
Coco 4, JPEG 7, Emma 8, right? Danielle right outside at 11, and then you got Madison,
Yep.
right around 21.
Yep.
And Madison, this is crazy in that she's not even 30 yet. She's 29 years old. Like
Yep.
That's wild. That's wild.
Yeah. That was what I was getting at.
But before we got started, right, when we came in all hot and everything, the question was, do we think that this group of women can produce Grand Slams? I'll even add consistently. So looking at next year, right? Well, let's take a step back. Coco, the last 2 years have been she's been great. She's been our more or less our best American player for the last two years, right? Obviously won the U.S. Open a couple years ago, semifinal here in Australia, semifinal at Roland Garros, right? Won the WTA finals, finished up the year quite strong. What does that mean? How do you view her moving forward? Like, I think maybe we spoke. I can't remember if it was last episode or the one before, but I feel like her floor is so high right now that she can't help but to produce Grand Slams from here on out.
I think we both agree on her future is bright. We may disagree on Grand Slams added to her belt. I will put it back on you. How many do you think, if at all, do you think in the next 2 years?
Next 2 years.
That he is likely to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, I think I got down to maybe when we talked about this a little while back that it was. I feel like she's good for 1 out of 6, 1 out of the next 6. So if you got 8 in the next 2 years, it's at least 1. It could be 2, right? Depending on which
what
side
surface,
of that 6 she falls on.
Which one, and is there another player, i.e., Sabalenka, i.e., Swiatek,
Yep.
i.e., right? There were the other top 4 players in the world that can knock her off and have a better chance on that surface.
Sure.
What say you?
I think you can kind of look at the Australian Open and the U.S. Open and similarly because of their relative surface consistency, right? I think she's got a fighter's chance, and that one's going to take draws breaking a little bit in her favor, right? So I'll play those at like whatever. I'm not a gambling man, but whatever neutral odds would be, I'm going to say neutral odds. I say Wimbledon, she has the worst chance because she does not perform well when sped up, right? So I think she has she's got it's only 4-4, 5-5. It's a 500 record against Sabalenka, who I think should be the walking favorite at U.S. Open until someone proves me otherwise. But I think that surface in particular, it's not good for her. She needs more time than that. So I will counter that by saying I think if Iga slips, French Open is there for Coco to take. Like it's right there. It's right there. It's right there.
In a previous episode,
she's final, she's semied, she's quartered.
You told me that that the Wemby is for athletes, the flatter ball.
Yep.
I'm going to put it back on you. Do you think she's either athletic enough, or is her ball not flat enough? Is her penetration not big enough? Is her serve, which I still feel is the X factor in the whole conversation, not big enough to hold and not break down in a 2-week stretch and to give her the freebies that she needs? I think she got the best back in return to win the sets.
Sure.
Even better than Iga's, and even not a solid overall, better back in return. Period of story. Better backhand than Arena. I would submit to you that that's still the X factor. I get you on 1 and 6. I would even up Annie to say 1 and 4. I would just take down her chances to be closer to a 20, not a 25%, because she needs help. You said it. I feel it. She just needs help at this stage in her career. She still doesn't own the serve. She cannot dial it in. Period.
Sure.
That's a coach's take. That's not a fan. I have seen that serve break down. Ironically, whatever she was doing with Brad Gilbert a year ago, she should go back to Brad, videotape that lesson 3 or 4 times, and just put it on AI and have Jarvis create her simulator and go through that serve progression and do some old school Eon Teriak on Boris Becker and put the black curtain over the net and hit target until she can hit him without seeing him. That's an old tip, by the way. Old Eon Teriak.
I'm writing that one down.
That was Eon Teriak with Becker, made him hit target by feel, not by sight. He said, if you can hit it, hit it. You know what it feels like. Put a big black curtain, red sheet over the net, and we'll put targets up. Boris had to hit it until he could hit it. Couldn't even tell how far away it was. It's at the tee. Figure it out. And buddy, you look at one of the best servers in that day at old.
Yeah.
Now, you get what I'm saying. That's old school. And then I am 100% old school. That's the level he has to be able to perform at, to dial it in. We know her returns are good. We know the backhand's money. Even on an off chance, the forehand's a little sus that week, no problem. If she can hold serve, Alvin, she'll be fine. If she can't, she's a liability.
Yeah, I think
best weapon in the girls' game. What is it?
Return to serve. Yeah.
What is the biggest liability?
The serve.
So to my point.
Yeah, I say you even crank that up on grass, right? You tell me someone's serve is a little suspect. I say, okay, well then you're not getting enough free points and you're gonna need those on grass, right? I also believe that it's her in between. Like she's rock solid at the net, right? Once she gets there, she can take care of some things. But we've talked about this before, how things get a little wonky on grass. You need a certain level of dexterity, a certain level of hand skills to handle the in between stuff. I just don't think she has that part of her game to make up for the lack of ability to dictate with the forehand from the back of the court, right? So and that's why I feel like, I mean, Emma ate her up like it was breakfast at Tiffany's at Wimbledon last year.
I feel Emma's a smarter player. I hate the term. I hate the comparison. That's the black-white thing. Emma is a tactician. She understands matchups. Coco is an athlete hitting a big ball. She's the counter punisher who, rock, paper, scissors, she understands her speed, likes staying on the move. If you were to play to Coco's forehand, and whenever Coco tries to change direction and you go back to the forehand instead of going to her backhand, I feel, and that's the body bag that Emma Navarro put her in. She says, I'm going to make you beat me on the forehand side. I'm going to serve to it. I'm going to roll to it. I'm going to slice to it. I'm going to bang to it. I'm going to drop shot to it. I'm never giving you the shot you want. You know what ended up happening? The overhit backhand.
Right.
Did not change well on the backhand side. Emma's not slow. And she ended up overplaying on the side she's good at and got so mental in her head that she didn't realize. And let me tell you something. This goes back to my 20 under tour. Because she's now the champ, last year, she's defending, which is a whole nother talk show. She was not prepared to be in a battle where she thinks she's supposed to be better than the upstart. All of the stuff in her head. Oh, you're good. Oh, you're going to go pro. You need to go to college. Oh, you're so good. That stuff is poison for the young player. This girl is as good as you. Period in the story. On a given day, better. You got to get your game right. We chose to have you go pro for marketing, money, and endorsement opportunities. But this girl is as good. Her dad's a billionaire. She had the choice to go pro later. She had the choice to go to Virginia on her own. Her dad bought a club and a team around her, right? That's the discussion. And I hate this whole, I saw it because I went through it with one of my players. There's this whole, you're good enough. Do this and that. No, you're capable, but you're not yet at that level. You ain't played enough tennis. You ain't played enough tennis at that level to be that good. And now you got to deal with what you don't know. Coco Gauff, you're right here. In my opinion, Coco will win 4 more slams. When? I think there will be maybe 1 this year, maybe 2 over the next 2 years. I think once she really settles in and gets a hold of Coco, he will be that Boris Becker type. And I think within the next 3 or 4 years, I think I could see Coco winning 2 in a year. If he really hits stride and really gets the mind right, settles in, gets mature, She reminds me of Chandler Rubin. She's a Chandler Rubin with Venus Williams speed. Chandler Rubin, as you remember, Chandler Rubin was a phenomenal player. Never really got the credit she deserved, in my opinion. Chandler had great skills, Alvin, and never really got the shot, and in my opinion, the credit she was deserved. But she had a great backhand. She had a big forehand, had nice returns. Didn't play the big ones enough to even know. Took her a year or two just to get good at the slams because she never played on grass, clay, and the others. Why did she sponsor? Remember the old Simmons ITF circuit?
Mm-hmm.
He helped sponsor those because she didn't get the ITF. So you got a girl playing juniors only that went pro, had nothing in between. And hats off to her for sponsoring that whole level. She did it because she didn't have it. I say that to say that's Coco to me. I think she's got 5 left in the tank, minimum 5. But I think she needs to really dial in that serve, get that forehand better, and really stop looking at the tour like I'm supposed to be, right? And look at it more like I have a lot to learn. I just happened to win one last year. I'm so happy I did. I rose to the moment, but now I got to get to the business of being good. I look at it like a top doctor out of med school who performs his first open heart surgery. Nice job. Now you're a surgeon, and now people are wanting you to do that regularly. It can't be luck. The situation may go sideways. What are you going to do? And how do you get to be the head of the department? You've seen enough go sideways. And now you really know, right?
Yeah.
And I know it's a weird analogy, but that's what Coco has to get to.
I think it's a good analogy because if you look at that same surgeon who does their first open heart surgery, let's say it's one that went sideways and they still were able to save the patient, and they come out and they're sweating and everyone's patting them on the back, right? But that's not necessarily what makes a great surgeon, right? A great surgeon is made by consistency.
Thank you.
Like
preparation. And you've seen enough. What's my old commercial state farm bureau? We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
Right. And
that to me is where Coco has to get to. In this talk, like she's so good, she's Grand Slam champ, it hurts to defend. That kind of talk to me.
Yeah, I think the Grand Slam champion.
I
think the Grand Slam champion part of it is it's probably a little overvalued, right? Because I mean, obviously we in the States, in the world, we value championships, right? We value champions, and we have 4 slam champions a year, right? But I think your ability to win let's look at this way. Coco Gauff has the same amount of Grand Slam championships as Emma Raducanu. She has the same amount of slams as Sloane Stephens. She has the same amount of slams as Bianca Andreescu, right? But the difference between Coco and the rest of these women is that she also knows how to win a 500. She also knows how to win a 1,000. She's going to be there.
And she's younger.
She's going to, I think that's even more impressive, right? She'll be there week in and week out, right? Even if she has a bad tournament for her is quarterfinals at a Masters 1,000, right? She's not going to tank out and lose the first round. She'll lose the first round. She's always there. And that's why I say, like, she is 20, but where we are in women's tennis right now with the parity post Serena, right? I think she's a lot younger than, not that much younger than Iga, but she's definitely younger than Arena. I feel like she's right there to start stealing one a year, but then also making a push for, top 3, top 2 in the world, maybe even number 1 in the world because of her consistency. And I think that's extremely valuable. I think that's the job. The job is to be consistent.
Thank you. And which is why I give her more of 1 to 4 than 1 and 6. To your point,
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters, right? Yeah, I think
it matters in terms of the later end of her career as it balloons, so to speak. I think she'll be better because of that experience, because she'll have those quote unquote surgeries under her belt. Let me take you back, and I know you want to get to Pegula and get some other players. Let me rattle off the 17 names that are in the top 100 currently at the end of 2024.
Yeah, give it to me.
Gauff, Pegula, Navarro,
all top 10.
Collins, Keys,
Mm-hmm.
Anisimova, Stearns, Volley Nets, Kruger, Kessler, Townsend, Pera, Stevens, Dolahide, Keenan, Baptiste, and Lee. Now, several of those. Shouts out to my girl Taylor. Shouts out to Katie Volley Nets and Anisimova. When I ran the girl 12 nationals right here in Alpharetta. They played my tournament, as did Coco, as did a few others on this list. I loved them when they were playing. They were good young players back then. I knew they were going to be pretty good at that time. They are now inside that top 50. The one player, ironically, who's won a Grand Slam at 63, give or take, year in, is Sloan. Do I think Katie Nets will get to win a slam? I'm not so sure. Do I think that Amanda Nisimova, I think she may have had her 3-year peak, so to speak, and maybe on the downside of it. When she came out, she was unbelievable. Stearns, I think Stearns is playing some really good ball right now. We'll see, right? We'll see what she can do.
I love watching
right?
her play. I love the idea
right?
of Peyton Stearns.
But Peyton may have, she's still just hitting big forehands and running around and having fun out there, right? Which is what I love, right? But I go back to Taylor's had a resurgence, had a big win there in the Grand Slam. Was it French that she won with doubles this year? Just love what she's doing. Which slam did she win in doubles this year?
I can't remember. It might have been.
I thought it was France.
I mean, it's either France or Wimbledon. It was one of those. One of the summer slams.
I was pretty sure it was France. Bottom line, huge win for her. I've been watching Taylor since she was, I don't know, she was 12 years old. I look at the rest of them, right? Kruger, Kessler. He's had a huge resurgence this year. Collins retired this year, by the way. There's a whole other talk show, right? So now you're starting to see that level, that era.
And unretired. Retired and unretired. Yeah, she's back.
But she's
whatever.
Back, but to my point, Collins, Sloan, Madison, who just got married, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
All of those players are, in my opinion, they're approaching that 30-year mark. And at that point, hey, maybe wanting to be a mom, maybe wanting to step left, maybe, maybe just wanting to move on to the next phase of life. Hey, and who can, I'm just saying, 17 gets shaved down closer to 14 or 15 in terms of who's not, for those that are not approaching 30 years old. Now, unfortunately, you're taking away a Grand Slam finalist, a Grand Slam winner with them, and the only other Grand Slam finalist left is Jess Pegula, right? Now, not to mention, obviously, Coco. Now, moving on to Jess Pegula. My personal favorite, I think Jess has the goods of what it takes, and all she needs, in my opinion, is to stay healthy. I think Australia is a big tournament for her. I think her ball's big enough where French, I don't like her chance on the French. I know she's had some decent wins here and there, but she's just not as athletic as I'd like.
Yeah, she's not a good enough mover to really be a threat.
And she didn't go up on the play. On the grass, I think she has a better shot. She has some great results on grass. The U.S. Open, ironically, hard courts are jam. And I submit to you, I think, I'm going to go out on a limb here, just out of love and loyalty, I think Jess Pegula has a shot to win the U.S. Open next year. And I think if that happens, that's her swan song, and she does her thing. She's the next player, maybe even another Coco and Jess Pegula matchup, that would be great to see. But I think that would be a great tournament to see her in that arena. She's also pushed it up closer to 30. She's also getting in that range where I think the 28, 29. She's also at that level where she's got to start thinking about, will she not be around in the next 2 or 3 years? And now the rest of them are all younger, right? And then, of course, you got Navarro, you got Amanda, you got Stearns. And in that conversation, I think we start really kind of having who's coming down, who's on the way up, right? Peyton, Emma, are kind of moving up. Maybe Amanda, maybe coming down a notch. Of course, and Danielle had a good year. Don't get me wrong. Danielle had a great year. Katie Nets is kind of hanging. Do I think that Taylor is a shot to get inside, to break inside the top 10 this year? I do not. Do I think she's going to be top 10 in doubles this year? Again, 1,000%.
Yeah.
And you better get your tournaments in with Taylor now, because she's going to be booked up. Do I think she's going to have that same year in singles? I'm not so sure. But the rest of them, again, as I say, Keenan, I think Keenan was at her best years, in my opinion, are behind her a little bit. That 3-year peak is over now. You know what I mean? Haley Baptiste, great player. She played my tournament back in the day as well. Good player. Do I think she's kind of one of those players, kind of has a nice career high, being top 100? I do. Do I think she's a heck of a talent? I do. Do I think she's a threat to be top 50 or top 30? I do not. I don't know if her game is quite that developed. I don't know if her mindset is ready to really, really grind and be professional on the tour at that level. But to my point, in that order, I think JPEG is one of the biggest players who I think doesn't get enough credit for all she's done, especially with some limited athleticism here and there. She's one of the best players that has a shot to still win one. And you look at her record against some of the Russians, you look at her record against Iga, you look at her record, she's right there toe-to-toe going against Arena. And of course, she's been the elder statesman to Coco. And a match that Coco doesn't want to play, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, here's my this is where I am less sold on JPEG than most. Well, not than most. Then I'm less sold than you are, right? And I she finals the US Open this year. Let's give props
and let
where
that
we should
sink
be.
in for a minute.
Yeah,
let that sink in.
She did, but also let this sink in.
At a ripe old age, with every other player in the draw, and if I'm not mistaken, beat Iga in round.
She did. She didn't do anything else the rest of the year, right? She was a little banged up this year. Fine.
Thank you.
Fine. But if you just look
coming
at
off
the
of
numbers,
a knee surgery or two, coming off a few injuries,
hey,
grind it.
Fine. She's also 30. So let's call a spade, right? She
100%.
She finished the year ranked 3 in 2022.
Yep.
5 in 2023. 7 in 2024. She was 28, 29, 30 years old. I mean, it's as they say, the math ain't mathin', my man. I when I see a trend,
the math ain't mathin', and I'm gonna tell you right now, all the more reason why I think this is her year. I also feel, let's not talk about billionaire dad. She don't need to play in the first place. The fact that she's playing is already there. I think this will be her last year to give it the old college try, and I think that's why I give her more credit this year to really double down on everything she's been doing. And between body, injuries, and everything else, I think she wants one more year to prove. You all said I couldn't do it.
I think that was I think what you're describing is what actually happened at the U.S. Open
this past year.
Fair enough. I think that's what happened. It was that you all said
enough.
I couldn't get past. You all said I couldn't do it, which was the it here was get past the quarterfinals of a Grand Slam.
Right.
She was like 0-8 or something like that. So she did it, and she beat Iga, and then she won another round, and then she made it to the
handily, by the way.
Made it to the finals. Like she didn't win it, but she did it. She got there, right? She's a New York girl. The whole promo of her riding the subway from Manhattan out to the US, it was great. Everything but the W at the end. It doesn't matter. I think that was it. I think that was it.
We will agree to disagree, and I love it.
Because
Jess, if you're watching, I love it. I love you. I think you got a shot. I will be right there. I will have the phone in hand, taking a picture of you with the trophy, and we will plaster it all over Alvin's back wall.
Coach, you're compromised. Coach, you're compromised. I'll put the picture right there, right next to my Emmy. That's an Emmy right there. So I'll put it right there with her. Okay. All right. So, I think so. The other side of the coin is probably Emma Navarro, right?
Right.
So
right.
Emma, she almost took the methodical route and also almost came out of nowhere, right? So like it hits the top 50 last year and then hits the ground running this year, right? Third round Australia, round of 16 at Roland Garros, quarterfinal semifinal US Open, fifth slam, she's in the final somehow. Give her six slam, she's got one now. So I think Emma's the one that kind of usurps JPEG and gets herself in the top 5 for the same reason, the exact same reason that I mentioned about Coco a little bit ago, right? Is that she can do it consistently. And this is a job.
And has proved it. I will give you one. You have and I have both heard of the sophomore slump.
Absolutely. I almost expect it.
What causes the sophomore slump? It's a two-prong hook. Three-prong. One, your own expectation. It's too high. You've, in a sense, gone better than you thought. We talked about Ben Shelton with this last year on a previous episode. Number two, the players now know you. They didn't know it much before. Came out of nowhere, right? That's also a problem. Now they know you. Now they know how to play you, right? And number three, we mentioned this before with the young Americans, right? Points to defend, schedule.
Sure. Yeah.
Now she has the tournament, the things to defend. It's tough. Each tournament becomes that much harder to defend. You saw Taylor get to the quarter of Wemby against Nadal, and the next year, darn near unheard from. Took him another year to get back into the spot. A little better, by the way, this past year than he was before or 2 years ago. But why? Because he had to overcome the sophomore slump. Ben felt this past year, right? And so on and so on. I will submit to you that Emma may run into that this next year. That's why I'm not thinking she will have the huge result next year. And again, no huge weapon. It's not like she has a huge game that can just absolutely run blitzkrieg on somebody to get into the semi on her own merit, right? I don't know.
But that's I think that's the opposite side of that coin of no huge weapons is she did this with no huge weapons. I think her game is built for when she's now found that she's like, I have the top 10 level. I feel like her game travels well. I think if she thinks she can do it
every surface
on
and
every surface,
every player,
yeah,
1,000%
because she's not for the same reason why she probably won't win a slam. It's the same reason why she's gonna be there.
Thank you. She
all
is
the time.
Better Simona Halep. She is the better, if you will, craftier Martina Hingis. She is the better. To your point, Bianca Andreescu. She is that player. She has everything, and yet she has no true weapon. She's not as consistent as Iga. She's not as powerful as Arena. She's not as fast as Coco. So for that reason, I feel like I'm talking like in the Shark Tank. And for that reason, I'm out. And for that reason, I don't think she has the good to go deep in a slam. Like I said before about Tommy Paul and about Ben and Francis, they're going to run into one of those four, right? And I don't like her chances. I don't like her chances against Arena. I don't like her chances against Iga. So therefore, if one of those two are there, and they're going to be there, what's the chance of her now? Will she be a player to reckon with for the next 5 to 10 years? 1,000%. And with her billionaire dad, she'll be the next JPEG, to your point. I will love watching it. Do I think she's got a slam in her in the next 5 years? 1,000%. And it'll be like a French or it'll be an Aussie. You heard it right here. I'm not ruling her out this year because people still don't know how to play her just yet.
Right. That's the thing. They don't like. You said the word is out on her game. And I was like, well, what's the word? Like, step up and try to hit her off the court. Like, can you?
Not the word. I think the blood in the water, and the blood in the water is a own player's mortality, their own belief that they can't lose. Right but you remember that crazy tournament where Carlos lost second round to some nobody. I forget what was it. Was it U.S. last year, or what was the tournament?
Oh yeah, he lost to Botic van der Zandschulp in the second or third round of the U.S. Open this year.
Well, this past year, right?
Yeah,
that was one of those weird tournaments. You're like, isn't that something? And you were just kind of like, now it didn't do a lot. It was a graze. It wasn't a mortal wound, but it was one of those where you're like, you can have a bad day. And when those days start to happen, you start telling yourself, you know what? This player, they can go down on the right day. And everybody in the locker room starts to say, you know what? I beat them. They beat you. Go ahead.
As an aside, I feel like that's one of the interesting things about Carlos. Like, his ceiling is higher than anyone else's on tour right now.
Great.
Like, his ceiling is higher than anyone else's.
And his trough.
Right.
Can beat me.
Oh my God, he will just
right.
Van der Zandschulp is one of those players, like, he's almost tailor-made to give Carlos problems because Carlos has an issue with tall players. Like, Carlos is not that big; he's like 6 foot, and so when he plays against these guys who are 6'4" and up, like when especially on these Grand Slam courts that are so big, right?
Right.
It gets into one of these, like, he can't really use the angles.
Right.
He's in these long
and
vertical
you don't get
rallies.
The ground stroke rallies. You don't get the ground stroke rally and the tempo to drop. You can't drop it on the second ball, right? So you're in these moments where you're not drop shotting off 140 plus serve. So you put GMP in his draw.
Yeah,
If I'm a gambling man on the right surface, Wimbledon, that match is going 5 sets. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things. Better for GMP if it goes 3 or 4.
Right. Yeah. And here's oddly enough, Carlos has never lost a 5-set match.
to my point. But that's why I changed my point.
Right. There you go.
4 sets of 3, I give it to GMP just because he has the ability to play hot for that long. Longer it goes, the worse it is for any big server because your legs are going. My point being, that's what I'm getting. We'll shift back to the ladies. I'm getting at one thing with Emma Navarro. I think her future is bright. I think she will continue to get better. She will benefit the most from this. Again, I'm going to coin the term post-GOAT era because now there are players that are shifting out. He's shifting in. Emma Navarro 5 years ago, right? Emma Navarro 5 years ago would have been a very good player, but not that good. He would have been had a good round or two against a Kvitova. He would have had a good round or two and had a nice 3-set battle with Azarenka. Emma Navarro, I'm trying to think of who I think, and I say 3 or 4 years ago, I'm going to say 7 years ago, because you got to take that COVID year out of there completely. You look at, I'm trying to give you a counterpart of her 7 years ago, and I think the player I'm thinking of, she is an Andreescu in my opinion. She just has that level of all parts to her game, no flaws. She's right there, and if the draw breaks, she's there. I don't know if she is a top seed, a threat to win each one. She's certainly not I think Sabalenka is she's the Ivan Drago, right, so to speak, of women's tennis compared to Serena. She's the bigger, better, bigger, better, stronger, taller, version, hits it cleaner. Only thing she doesn't have is Serena's intangibles and Serena's athleticism. I look at Iga. Iga is one part Steffi Graf and one part Martina Hingis. She just has the craftiness, the steadiness, knows what she's doing, and just will not, and mentally is so dialed in. You're going to have to actually catch her on a bad day and play your butt off to win that kind of match. And the more you start putting these level of players in the top 4, Coco is the hybrid of Venus and Serena. Let's be honest. Venus,
Sure.
There wasn't a better player. There wasn't a better athlete, better mover. And Venus is about 6'2", 6'3". People that have better in person, you'll be shocked at how tall Venus actually is. She is legit all day 6'2", possibly 6'3".
Yeah, I was thinking 6'3", yeah.
The girl is tall, man. I mean, I met Lisa Leslie in person and other players. Venus Williams is tall. I'm 6'6", Alvin. And when I talked to Venus, I felt like I was looking at her eye to eye. The girl is tall.
I ran into Coco, guys, it wasn't this summer, it was last summer, right? So in my day job, my office is right across the street from Georgia Tech. She was she had played in that the exhibition match at the beginning of the Atlanta Open, but she was I look out the window and I see, this black girl hitting at Georgia Tech during the ATP tournament, and I'm just like, let me walk down there. Who could that be? Coco Gauff. I was shocked at how tall she was. She's probably a good 6'3". Like, that is a professional athlete. Like, athlete with a capital A.
Yeah. Yeah. And I say that to say now you've got that level. If you had to round out the top 4, okay, you had to round out that top 4. Who's that 4th player? Now, that's where your question starts to become a little bit, as I said, same with Taylor Fritz on the men's side. You start getting that. That's where the question marks start coming in. Is it? For Taylor for the men, is that player, is it JPEG, right? Is that player, who's my lefty with the tattoos? Avondrosova or whatever her name is.
Vondrousova, yeah.
Vondrousova. Is it who's the other young lady that came out of nowhere this past year? I know she's one of your favorites. Young girl. She looks like she's about 17. I call her Krakova.
Barbora Krejcikova.
Yeah, right. Is it her? Right? It may not be Mukhova, right? It may not be Jabora. Jabora, I think that has kind of stubbed her toe a little bit. But you got a lot of players in there that can still get it done, and now that makes it that much tougher for. Okay, and I'm gonna get back to your list. That makes it that much tougher for your Keys, Anissa Bova, Peyton Stearns, Katie Volin-Nets, Kruger Kessler, Taylor Sloan, and Catherine Dolahide, and Haley Baptiste, and Sophia Kenin. So that's where we are, right? And I think that's where I'm saying you got to look at at that 17. That's a bit of a, it's like It's like when I put the meat thermometer in my sink. Where am I putting the thermometer at? That's my temperature. If I put it on the edge, it might be looking like it's ready to go. If I put it toward the middle, it might still not be done yet. That's
Yeah.
where I'm at. I think this list is, in my opinion, about 5 players extra. 5 degrees, if you will, extra on the Heat, more than it should be. Not these players aren't good. But this is, again, coming off some COVID era, coming off some wins, coming off some matches that they may or may not be quite there yet. But, in my opinion, I think you got 3 or 4 players in that list that are over 30 or right at 30. You got 4 or 5 players that are coming down off their peak and not necessarily ascending to the top, which is very, I'm going to say, what's the term, which is very standard, for the women's game. They have a very, it's for whatever reason, a smaller shelf life. I think that's part of what the deal is. And many girls come from money. They ain't got to play. They want it. The hunger it's optional.
Yeah.
Sorry.
When I look at the kind of the rankings at this point, and you start looking at, okay, a lot of them, once you get outside of the top 20, right?
Right.
You have to start looking at where did they finish the year versus how old they actually are, because that gives you an idea. Like if you're 26 and you're 70 in the world, like, I'm sorry, this is not a conversation we need to be having, right? That doesn't make any kind of sense as far as, like, that does not equal Grand Slam champion, save for Jessica Pegula, right? Who, I think she's very unique in that.
Might be the only one,
right? Yeah, that's not a real.
And that's a close second and third is Madison and Sloane, who could still dial up that level of tennis on a given day.
So that's the thing. I feel like Madison could pull a age 31, 100%. 32, mess around and win the 100%. US Open because 100%. she's got the weapons to do it.
She's got the weapons, the height, the strength, the court coverage, and maybe still has a little bit of I'm gonna show you left in the tank for her.
She needs one.
And I think Sloane has the same. If anything, the only thing hurting Sloane is I should have won one, a second one by now, right? And I think the hunger of not winning one is what's going to fuel Madison more than it's going to help Sloane.
I don't think Sloane. No. I'm gonna call you on that one. I don't see it for Sloane. No.
The only reason you haven't seen it. The only reason you haven't seen it is Sloane needs to get pissed off, in shape, and motivated to prove to herself that she wants another one bad enough. And I think, does she have the athleticism and game? 1,000%. Does she have the hunger and drive to still do it? That's what I'm not so sure about. Madison Keys, I feel what's driving her is that loss in 17 to Sloane. Knowing what she can do. Well, was it not? Because he was in the match. He was in control of the match.
Yeah.
And that's what still keeps her up at night. And like I know, I have more tennis players. A match like that keeps you up at night. That's what gets you up in the morning, fraction hitting balls.
Yeah.
And you start developing this hunger of, I deserve it because I want it more than you. And when you start really dialing that back in and really supercharging and turbocharging that belief and bringing that exhaust back in and wrapping it back around the engine, it starts to have compound interest. Right. And then you start realizing, you know what? Momentum starts to happen about 2 to 3 weeks at the pro level, or I would say at the high level tournaments, thousands and ATPs, WTAs, it starts happening about 2 months after. And now you start seeing momentum kick in. So who's worked up to this point to get to Australia and have a big year? That's what we're going to find out.
So before we wrap, there is the one player that I do feel like I saw some things from her this year, and she has all the markers that make you go, huh. And that's Ashlyn Kruger, actually.
Okay.
I know she's sitting right there. I think she finished the year at like 60 something or other, but she's 20 years old, right?
Yep.
Hall.
Yep.
Plays big. She plays like she's from Texas.
Kind of reminds you of Jen Brady. Yeah, kind of reminds you of a Jen Brady
more. She more so reminds me of like a fiery version of Madison, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, like Jen kind of reminds me of, like, Peyton Stearns reminds me of Jen Brady. Like, that feels like a wonder, like, just slide that thing under and let it rip.
Right. But just not as tall. I think Jen may be a tad taller than Peyton.
Yeah. But I feel like Ashlyn is a one-off of Madison, and I favor players who obviously you want someone who can do it all, right? Move well,
Yep.
has the hand
Yep.
skills,
Yep.
has the pop. But if anything, she got the big serve, she got the big forehand, and is a competent mover. I think those things add up to, and she's 20, right?
Yep.
She ain't
Yep.
25, she's 20, right? So I think she's the one that I want to keep an eye on this year.
Okay.
Because I think she hit the circuit maybe last year or the year before.
Yep.
But that's the one she's my sleeper for this year.
Okay.
We had this
She's sleeping.
conversation. We have this
Okay.
conversation this time next year, and I feel like she's the one that we're talking about. Like, whoa, 25 in the world, huh? I feel like she can cut that ranking in half.
My sleeper of this list is Amanda Anissim. The girl can flat out hit a
Oh my
ball.
God, that
She's
backhand,
taller than you
Jesus.
think. The backhand is all day. I think she has the game. She has the temperament. She has the experience down the tour. If she can stay healthy and rekindle her want, her will, her hunger to reach back inside the top 10, she's my sleeper because of her skill set. Getting a little older, not too much older. She's not 30. I think she's probably, what,
It's like
24,
24, 25.
24, 25. But she's my sleeper. I get you on your girl, Ashley Kruger. I think she's not a player. I think Peyton Stearns, in my opinion, has Peyton and Ashlyn are on that curve. They're on the way up. They're starting their 3-year peak, right?
Yeah.
I think, injuries notwithstanding, I think Amanda is right there at the top. She's right there in her prime. If she were to make a move, it's right now, and I'm encouraged by the fact that she's right outside the top 20 right now. She could make some moves. She's my sleeper this year.
Yeah, I back you on Amanda because she's had a rough go since obviously 2020, and then I think it was 2022 her dad passed, and then so she took some time away from the tour and came back, came back and looked like the player she was. She just wasn't in shape, right? Just wasn't in shape, and then she kind of got in shape, but her body wasn't up to the task of playing year round.
You remember your girl Vanderway?
Coco.
Coco Vanderway.
Yeah.
She has Coco skills. I remember when watching Coco in the later years, she just wasn't in shape. It just wasn't herself. But there was not a better. Coco was a better, in my opinion, hands Davenport with all court game. Just wasn't as explosive, maybe not as tall. She's pretty tall. Kiki was a dad. You know what I mean? So so you got some height on that side. I feel like Amanda has that level of skills. Amanda is a smoother Capriati that can absolutely tag it anywhere. Has a big serve on her own, has good hands, good returns. She had one of my favorite shots, and that's the inside-out backhand return on the deuce side, going out wide on the deuce that you just can't defend. Right, it just breaks your ankles every time you see it. But that's one of those shots to me Andy Murray has that shot as well. There's only a few players. Serena had that shot. I would tell you there's 10 players in the world that have that ball consistently. And I call it when I see that shot, I say that's world class.
Yeah.
Andy Murray, of course, had a world class backhand. Agassi had it a little bit. Agassi, of course, preferred to pull it line. Marty Fish had that ball. I know Serena had that ball. There's some of your best backhands in the world have had that ball. Coco hit that ball from time to time. But you heard it right here. Amanda owns that ball. And that's one of the shots where I love that for her. She's smart enough and sharp enough to hit that ball when she needs to. And she's tall, fit. If she's fit. She has the chance. She has the ability to go, in my opinion, top 10 and really wreak some havoc, because I think she knows her game is there. Now, again, to your point, I'm compromised. I'm thinking with my heart more than with my head. When I watched her and Sebi Korda, that's a fun day to me. I'm not putting them in top 8 category yet. They haven't proved that. But at the same time, love watching what they do with the paintbrush.
Yeah. And I think that's a good place for us to pause for today's conversation. Tonight's conversation. It's a late one. But I made the mistake of last time we got together. I feel like I took something from the people. We did not take a trip to Coach's Corner.
Oh, fair enough.
It's back, and this one's near and dear, and this one is definitely in the weeds, right?
Okay.
This is about the hands.
Yeah.
What should a player do with their non-dominant hand when in a baseline rally. And I'll give you a little further context, right?
Please.
You see it, most players go, non-dominant hand on throat, right?
Yep.
Prep for the forehand.
Yep.
I personally find that if the tempo is too high, I can't take my non-dominant hand to the shaft of the racket and make the grip change to hit the backhand. It's too much going on. It's too late. I'm faster going from both hands on the grip to sliding the non-dominant hand up to the throat as I make the unit turn for forehand. It's a smaller change for me personally. So I want to hear from you.
So if before you ask me the question,
yes,
do you feel like you just said, if I get you right,
yep,
that you're better off going from backhand to forehand transition than forehand to grip change backhand? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
If I'm putting my non-dominant hand on the throat, I can't go throat, hand down, and make the change.
And I would tell you that, why would you not hold both grips? Why would you not hold forehand lefty? I know you're lefty.
Yep.
And hold right hand backhand, elbows out, ready to move. And that move becomes just that. It's part of the grip change, part of unit turn. You're only holding forehand. You never not hold forehand.
Right. Yeah.
Your right hand just flows up. Maybe the thumb's on it. Maybe the hand comes off. Doesn't matter. As long as you separate when you feel the tempo.
Right.
But the backhand, in my opinion, for you, you're lefty. So your right hand has to turn that grip down. There's no other way to do it. Here's my question. This is my answer for Coach's Corner. Think to your return to serve. It is the one moment where it is the fastest as it'll ever be.
Yep.
And you don't know.
Yep.
I bet you on your return. So I'm not talking about facing a guy like Ivan Izevich or somebody who's popping bombs in the corner. That's just a hope and pray and go continental and hope you get a good crack at the ball and block it back deep. We're talking about a makeable return that's going to stretch you. I bet you some money. You're holding Connie left backhand grip and you're flipping to the forehand and able to either buggy or roll forehand as best you can, but you're probably not holding lefty forehand. And if some of the better returns would tell you, they're holding both.
Hold forehand grip on bottom forehand, at all times.
Hold forehand at bottom and hold backhand on top.
On top.
Elbows out.
Yep.
Unit turn go. It's just that fast. The great Brian DeHaley was at one of the best returns. Top 50 world. Bobby Reynolds told me something similar. Go used to hold both hands down. He was almost Western on the forehand on returns because he felt like it was closer to his other grip. And he would literally hold left hand on top of the throat, near the throat, not near the top of the handle, near the throat.
Yeah.
And so when he went forehand, his racket was already down. And he told me the same. He says, I feel better if I'm holding both grips. And these are all, mind you, serve was my big weapon. I registered a 143 back in the day, back in the early 90s. I was bringing some heat. Unfortunately for me, my return was abysmal, but I was blocking everything from a bygone era. So Joe helped me appreciate that holding a return in that grip helped him be able to rip returns. I've seen him hit a ball off of an overhead because he was holding both.
Right.
Because when I'm holding both, it doesn't matter. I'm not thinking kind of.
Yep. That makes sense because when it's flowing, I feel that I am actually closer to holding both, like both hands, almost butt to butt. I've got the forehand grip, and I'm right there for the backhand. Just a slight. I'm already going into the turn. My top hand doesn't have to move at all.
And as you move it, for you, it's your right hand. From us, righties, it's left hand. That left hand is turning down. And as it's turning down, the right arm is straightening out. And at that point, your unit turn is complete when the grip is correct.
Yep.
Right? Because at that point, you now have turn. Until then, you have hold, you have flip down, you have something wonky. But until you can get that inside arm, first backhand is for you being lefty. Until you can get that left arm straight, you can't hold that left arm straight with the wrong grip.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you wouldn't hold continental. You know what I mean? You'd hold forehand. So you got to hold both grips, a little bit of elbows out. Look at that. You know who has one of the best return of serves, and I'm going to give him a lot of credit here, and I think he's one of my coaches who worked with him told me this, and I thought it was a great point. The fact that he nailed this. Tommy Paul. Tommy Paul has some of the best returns you've seen on the men's tour, aside from Novak himself. The kid just has he has the perfect shortness of backswing.
Yeah.
You haven't seen Tommy miss many returns,
especially on the back end.
I mean,
jeez.
He's a dadgum he's a dadgum robot on the back end side. But I said, let's see, what does he do? He has both grips. He turns it, shortens the swing, holds it, rips it, done. It's as simple and as efficient as it can be. You look at Novak, very similar. Forget all this eye movements and all this looking around and all this. He has a unit turn, Alvin, that is all day. And once he takes that big footstep and turns, he holds it at 135,
right,
140 plus.
Seriously, get out of
here. Loads it, connects it inside the baseline, and returns it back to you like, buddy, what else you got?
On the top of your toes too, on the shoelaces.
On the top of your toes and the shoelaces. So that's my point. For those at home, if you want to take your returns up a level, especially on second serves, hold forehand bottom, backhand top, elbow slightly out, slightly bowed, get that unit turn. It ain't a unit turn until you change the grip, go on with thumb on the throat on the forehand. It ain't a true unit turn until you can do that. And you don't need backswing. The more pace, the less backswing you need.
Yeah.
But you got to have the grip, you got to have the turn.
Yep.
And if you need more time, it's a weaker serve, back up and go Carlos. Carlos actually hits his second serve return from further back and rips the crap out of it. I mean, hits that ball like a darn 3-second blackout, like he's had the old school air zone. Remember the old air zone?
Yeah.
He hits that return like he's hitting over it like a double net. He blocks a lot of everything else, and he rolls that dadgum return on the second. It's like, buddy, you messed up. You just gave me my heavy ball, a la Nadal.
Right,
exactly.
Exactly.
For a heavy return, nice and deep. Now what you got? Now hit that first strike from right there.
I dare you to try to come in behind it, I don't have this.
Coming off that ball. Thank you.
Yeah, that was Coach. That was a fantastic trip to Coach's Corner. It feels good. I feel rejuvenated. My most recent trip to the court was pretty trash. But now exactly. We all come back to hopefully play another day. And 100%. for the people out there still rocking with us, thank you. 1, 2, we've had some positive feedback. We're getting our reps in here, and it's feeling good. Do the things that you're supposed to do, which is like and subscribe and follow, rate us, review us, 5 stars only.
Some questions, ask some questions, put some stuff in the comments. I would love to add a section in of the listeners to see what they would like us to expound upon. Give us your 2 cents. Let us break it apart. I heard the other day they're gonna nix around the horn, and they're gonna extend PTI, pardon the interruption, right? I know that's right in your neck of the woods and your job, but I say it to say, I would love to hear the people out there in tennis land give us something to chew on, so to speak, that's kind of near and dear, and be able to kind of break it down, give it our 2 cents. We're coming up with some of our own subjects and whatnot. We got the tour to kind of give us a backbone, but I would love to see us have to kind of chew on a bone that a listener has thought enough to put some time into a good question or a good, who versus who, and why, because that really gets into the weeds of tennis for us purists. That really gets into the weeds for us, and I personally love those kind of conversations and those kind of situations. So look forward to hearing from you, those out there who are listening in.
Yep, that's right. Blow up the chat. And I'll leave you with that. Torrey, always a pleasure.
Alvin, pleasure's mine.
Catch you on the next one.
Yes, sir.